Hey guys, it's ExandShadow and welcome back to Let's Play Devil Survivor Overclocked. In the last part, we took care of the first real boss in the game, Wendigo. And in this part, we are going to try to find our way out of the lockdown because that's the whole reason that we've been playing the game in the first place, you know. So, yeah, we're going to Akihabara, which, if I remember correctly, is supposed to be like Japan's big techie part of, no, not Japan, but Tokyo's big techie area. I don't really know of a good equivalent in any sort of United States country, United States city, because you know, I am ignorant, but you know, this is where all the nerd stuff is, so that's why we're going to find a very convenient hand-powered charger to charge our batteries, because they make hand-powered Nintendo DS chargers, right? You know, I'm not even sure how common these things are even supposed to be. You know, like how much effort would it take to charge your Nintendo DS just for at all, really? I mean, how long would that last? You know, it feels like it would take like hours and hours of just hand cranking that thing in order to get it to work. But whatever, you need to get it in order to move on with the plot. You don't need to really do anything with it, and it's just a hand wave. So how you can use an electronic thing in a blackout, and they never really bring up how everybody else gets these charger, but whatever, you know. It's a video game. You don't really care about how everybody got the comps. You know, it's just people have them, you know, or at least Keisuke has them. More people will be getting them later. That's not really a spoiler, you know. But anyway, Keisuke is bringing up the fact that we had already assumed by this point, is that nobody in the Yamanote line has more than 6 days to live. If you've been looking at everything, like all the character art that's been popping up, this has been relatively obvious to you, you know. Everybody either has 6 or less days to live, which, by process of very basic elimination, means that, well, something happens at the 6th day in order for shit to get real. So, yeah, wonder what that is. It's probably not anything that has to do with the end of the game or what caused the lockdown or is incredibly bad or anything. No, no. Yeah, what causes this catastrophe at the end of the 7th day is one of the biggest, mysteries. Really, one of the biggest mysteries that happens in the course of the story, and the specifics of what happens at the end of the 6th day is never really made clear if you're just plowing through the game, but you can activate certain events that will elaborate on how everybody is supposed to die their gruesome, horrible death. And I will be showing you those events because they are actually important to unlocking Atsuro's and Jin's endings. So you are going to want to make sure to look out for those. But those don't really start until day 2, so don't really worry about those too much for right now, you know. But anyway, we learned some stuff from Keisuke, I guess, although he's got a comp. I don't know why he just doesn't decide to, you know, stay with us, you know, stick with people. Given the situation, increase your chances of survival. He's the only person we've talked to that knows that the death clock exists other than us, so, you know, you'd think that he'd want to stick with us because we've got one more day on him than he does, so,
if we do find a way out, let's not keep it to ourselves, okay?
Yes, let's just tell everyone in the lockdown so that the giant mob of people totally doesn't alert the SDF to our plans. Yeah, that makes sense. So anyway, finally, we get access to what makes Shin Megami Tensei, well, Shin Megami Tensei, the most iconic, well, I wouldn't say iconic, but a staple of the series that has been in pretty much every game even remotely connected to the franchise. Demon Fusion. Demon Fusion is basically how it works, is that you've got 2 demons on you. Let's just say you've got a Pixie and a Jack Frost. You go to the demon menu and you select the fusion option, you fuse them together, you'll get something else. That's how Demon Fusion works. And it's one of the most intriguing and unique aspects of not Devil Survivor, but the entire franchise in general, because the Shin Megami Tensei games treat the monsters very differently than how most other games treat them. You know, if you play something like Pokemon, you're expected to care for your Pokemon and train them and treat them with love and, you know, raise them them as much as possible. You know, that's the whole point of those games. But in Shin Megami Tensei, demons are relatively expendable, you know? You're not going to keep a demon on you for more than a handful of levels before it starts to become useless, and then you need to fuse it into something else in order to get, you know, better results, you know? But anyway, here is the Cathedral Shadows where we do our demon fusion. I'm going to be cutting most of this out, but you will, whenever I'm going to be fusing, like, something a little bit more unique, like one of the, like, you know, there are certain demons that do require very specific combinations, and I'll be showing those off. But for the most part, I'm going to be cutting past demon fusion, because a lot of the stuff that you can get through fusion, you will eventually unlock through the auction anyway. So how it works is that you pick your 2 demons in order that you want to have be fused, and then you choose what skills you want to inherit down into the next demon. You know, you can inherit, you can choose from a couple of the command skills. So a demon that you fuse, like this Kikimora here, it wouldn't normally know something like Agi when we buy it in the auction, but if you fuse it, it can learn Agi automatically, you know, stuff like that, you know. Fusing demons gives you a much greater influence over their skill set, and since you can pass those skills onto another demon if you fuse them, you can get some really broken skill combos, especially once you start getting stuff like null fire and things like that. So, you know, you can inherit a demon that doesn't have any weaknesses, and in a few very specific instances, you can actually get demons that are impervious to almost every attack, which is awesome. Although there aren't too many demons that have that special sort of thing, but we'll get to those when we get to those. What made Devil Survivor such a revolution in the Shin Megami Tensei series is that it's one of the very first games in order to be actually fucking convenient with the demon fusion thing. In the Persona games and in Nocturne and in basically every game before that, demon fusion skill inheritance was random. So let's say that you wanted to inherit Dia. Well, sometimes the demon that you fused wouldn't inherit that skill, it would inherit something you didn't want instead. And the only way to really change this was to either save and reload a whole bunch, or I think you could just go into the menu, exit, and then go back into the menu, and that would reset the skill allotment. I think that's applicable in at least some of the games, but either way, the point is that demon fusion wasn't cumbersome. Well, skill inheritance in demon fusion, I should say, was a cumbersome, annoying, obnoxious process in a lot of these other games, and Devil Survivor finally allows you to just, you know, pick which skills you want and apply them to the demon, you know. It's just things like that that make this game such a good choice for beginners, you know, because you can just, demon fusion is simple, you know, you don't have to go in and out of the menu a whole bunch, you can just sort of fuse, choose what you want, and then go, you know. It makes stuff like those skill chains that I was talking about earlier a whole lot easier, you know. Stuff like that is so much more convenient in Devil Survivor, and basically every game from the Overclocked's point, at the very least, has used this demon fusion method, because I'm pretty sure Persona 4 Golden uses this method, and Shin Megami Tensei 4 also allows you to choose what skills you want your demons to inherit. Shin Megami Tensei 4 is even more open with that, because in Devil Survivor, the demon will always have, will usually have like a couple of skills that it needs to keep with it. Like if Agi isn't as a skill natural to that demon, it will need to have Agi, so you won't be able to pick 3 skills, you'll only be able to pick 2. Shin Megami Tensei 4 allows you to pick any skills you want, so you know, you could have a skill set on your demon that has none of the original skills that it would normally have if you had recruited it from the wild, you know, stuff like that. But Devil Survivor Overclocked is still a very open and non-restrictive system that I really enjoy. Demon fusion is one of the most engaging aspects of Shin Megami Tensei, really, because, you know, getting a whole bunch of demons and fusing them together, you can find some really ridiculously broken combos early in the game and run into some really unique demons that you didn't think that you'd run into, you know. I love that sort of stuff, and it's really, it's a really unique aspect of the system. Now, there are some limitations to it, or at least there are some limitations on your first playthrough. The most important one is that you can only use demons that have an equal or lesser level to you. So, let's say you're level 13. That means that you can't fuse any demon that is level 14 or higher. Like, I think Jack Frost is level 14. You can't fuse that dude until you become level 14 yourself. It's the same sort of logic behind the, that same sort of logic dictates the auction as well. So keep that in mind. You can't fuse anything too ridiculously powerful until you get to New Game Plus, where you can wipe out that level restriction. So with enough planning, you can fuse like level 50 demons really early on, as long as you have the money for it, of course. And then that's just excellent. I love that sort of stuff. But yeah, Demon Fusion is an amazing system, and I'm actually really sort of glad that it's something that's managed to stay relatively unique to Shin Megami Tensei. Like, I don't think there's too many other game series that have tried to take this idea. You know, a lot of other series have used the monster mechanic before, but this Demon Fusion does remain iconic to Shin Megami Tensei. So I'm really glad that that it's managed to stay that way. You know. So anyway, back at the plot that I've been rambling on over, we talked to Haru, who will actually be saving next part, and we also met Midori, who will become important later on. But again, day one is mostly just about setup, you know, setting up the situation behind the lockdown and the blackout, and introducing us to some of the characters that we'll be meeting throughout our journey. We'll still be doing the whole meeting new characters thing once day 2 starts, but by the time day 3 comes around, then we'll really be starting to get into the thick of things. But, you know, there is sort of a necessary extended tutorial segment here, just because of how complex the mechanics can be. Not that the game's incredibly like inaccessible to newbies, but you should have a general idea of how these sorts of games works before you start trying to play in them. So yeah, that's a Mane. You might think that the dialogue choices you pick here might have an option, might have like an impact on what happens later on, but whether or not you choose to be a dick to the Shomenkai here doesn't really impact anything. Don't worry too much about that. It's only a handful of dialogue choices, mostly later on, that impact whether or not you'll be able to access certain endings. And you know what, I don't like being preached at, so I'm just going to ignore this dude. Because yeah, have you heard the word of Jesus Christ, something, yeah. I'm a card-carrying member of the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster myself, so unless if your dude is a giant blob that sits around and has giant meat-shaped growths growing off of him, you know, I'm not interested, you know. So here's a Mane, stupid headpiece and all. Interesting fact about her last name, Kazuru. I believe it's Shin Megami Tensei 2. The Kazuru is... I might be getting this wrong, my memory's a little bit fuzzy, but I think Kazuru is the weapon they use in Shin Megami Tensei 2 in order to, like, wipe out all of Earth, all of the Earth's life, or something like that. It has some sort of plot significance. I haven't really memorized Shin Megami Tensei 2's plot because I don't really enjoy it all that much. But I'm not sure if that's necessarily a callback, because it doesn't really that name doesn't really mean anything. Like, she doesn't blow anything up or anything. It just I think it's just supposed to be an indicator that this character is supposed to be important. So anyway, I was sort of a dick to Amane, but, you know, she basically assume that Naoya gave you the comp, even if you don't say that Naoya gave you the comp. So why would he make comps for people in stupid orange robes and stuff? Maybe he wanted one of those headpieces, although I can't really imagine Naoya wearing one of those. Or maybe he just needed a new robe. I mean, the brightly colored green one's a little bit tacky, but I think that the bright orange is even more tacky, so...
Are you asking me?
So anyway, I chose to do all of the character events first, but you will need to basically choose every single event available to you if you want to go on with the plot. The last 3 events is just Yuzu and Atsuro whining about not finding any way out of the lockdown, although I think you could have assumed at this point, if they had covered all of the main entrances, that they would have had the more obscure ones covered too. And yeah, Yuzu's a little bit whiny in this situation, which is part of why there is some sort of dislike about her character. People think that she's kind of annoying, and it can get that way, although part of that, I think part of the whininess does come from her voice acting, because I feel like it would be a little bit more charming and funny if it were, if you were just reading the text. Sometimes voice acting has that effect on certain lines, you know, when it's voiced, you know, the characters voice it in a way that you don't think would be as funny if you would just imagine it when reading text. And although it works in the other way too, you know, sometimes the actor gives a performance that makes a normally not funny line funny by comparison, you know. That'll happen every once in a while, but, you know, you have to do all of these events if you want to move on. Since it's introducing characters and introducing the fact that we can't get out of the lockdown, you know, it's all very important plot stuff. But basically, we've tried to find our way out of the lockdown, and it looks like we're sort of boned, because we can't find any sort of way out, which, you know, sucks and stuff, but whatever. Anyway, next time on Let's Play Devil Survivor Overclocked, we are going to end up we're going to finish off day 1, and probably not find our way out of the lockdown if this gigantic string of cutscenes hasn't made that obvious already. I'm ExandShadow, and I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, you're right.